Hello, everyone. Welcome to the full moon in Aries, exact on October 9th, 2022. In the podcast, I talk at length about the astrological aspects. I want to give you a quick snapshot here and then jump right into something very interesting, the Palladium. So the backdrop of this particular full moon, well, it's starting us off for eclipse season at the end of this year. And I've talked about this particular eclipse season is going to be a powerful one. Eclipses are always permanent changes, resets, reboots. The first eclipse is on October 25th. It's a solar eclipse. The next eclipse on November 8th. It's a total lunar eclipse. This particular full moon is kicking things off. As a precursor to that, Saturn square Uranus, which was, I associate, a lot of astrologers associated that with the interesting times of COVID. It began in 2021 and kind of closed off early 2022. It's coming round to its final. It was a square. This is a waning square, and the last time we had these particular aspects, it's called a hard aspect, when a squaring action or some kind of headbutting happens. I call it breakdown to breakthrough energy. This was back in 2008, the end of 2008, which was a global financial crisis. So we're in, and I say that glibly because I don't believe that it's crisis. I believe that I said breakdown to breakthrough. Some of the things are shaking and quaking because there's new things already coming through. This the end of this year is we're going to be seeing some things moving around. And so at the time of a full moon, the sun and moon are always opposite each other. Interestingly enough here, sun is in Libra, ruled by Venus. Luna is in Aries, ruled by Mars. Libra and Aries are actually opposite. They're said to be incompatible energies astrologically, but really they're helping us, and oppositions are just those kind of energies. It's that breakdown to break through. It doesn't feel very compatible, but if we can navigate it, there's higher ground for us to reach. And so Aries is the I am sign. It's a sign of confidence, of strong will, of resilience. And Aries is actually conjunct Chiron. Luna is conjunct Chiron in Aries. So Luna is inward looking. We're supported at inward looking about who we are, how we vibrate. Chiron, the wounded healer. Have we truly been loving ourselves? How have we been treating ourselves, talking to ourselves, considering our power? And this whole bigger picture is supported by Sun in Libra. Sun in Libra, Sun and Venus are together in Libra. Venus rules Libra. This is big picture, high heart love, cosmic balance that we're being asked to consider. So this is a long-term picture, but how do we do this? First, Aries is going to help us take ownership for ourselves energetically. And then we're ultimately going to come to realize, I believe in 2023, it's going to be such a wonderful time, how much power we have, how everything that we heal for ourselves, we're healing for the collective. So some of the things I'd like to try to do is look at some of the asteroids or other objects that come through in a chart for a lunar event. Here we have two things sitting right at the same degree, squaring both the sun and the moon, and they are Sirius and Pallas. Sirius, I've mentioned, is the central sun to our sun. So the squaring action is really going to be lighting things up. Full moons in general are times of realizations. This is going to be a time for us to get illuminated, have realizations. And the Sirius central sun to our sun, if we remember, those are downloads that are coming through to our sun so that we can get the upgrades, so that we can be prepared and ready to greet the higher frequencies. Pallas is interesting. Many of us know Pallas as Pallas Athena. Pallas Athena is actually one of the names given to Athena, but Pallas was a childhood friend of Athena. So Pallas, while Athena was birthed from the forehead of Zeus, Pallas was the daughter of Triton. Triton was sort of a foster parent for Athena. They used to engage in friendly combat. And I mentioned the full story in the podcast. Suffice to say, Athena accidentally kills Pallas. She feels really horribly about it. She makes this thing, this wooden statue, and this wooden statue is called the Palladium. I'll put a picture up here of the Palladium. Hold on a second. Okay, so here's one of the pictures of the Palladium. And you'll see to the left of this image, there's this beautiful statue of a woman. was said to be a wooden statue that Athena herself was afraid of something called the Aegis. I pronounced it a little bit funny in my podcast. My apologies. I had to actually look up how to pronounce this. Aegis, Aegis. Aegis was some kind of a protection cloak or skin or something used to, and it's by many senses, it was said to have the head of a gargoyle. So whether or not that is actually the case, Zeus used it to protect himself and to make magic. Pallas was very interested in it and not afraid of it. Athena was. So Athena ended up wrapping this statue with this sacred object used by Zeus. And this gives us the precursor, as I mentioned in the podcast. The Palladium was kind of a cult object. It was in general, whoever had it was sovereign in their rule and couldn't be defeated in war. So this relates to the Trojans. The Trojans were in possession of the Palladium for a certain amount of time, and then in a myth, let me share another picture here. In a myth, not a myth, in things like the Iliad, the Little Iliad, they talk about how the Greeks came to know that the Trojans were in possession of this thing called the Palladium, and it was actually up to Diomedes and Odysseus snuck into Troy and took this magical object. This urn here shows, if you look at, they're carrying something in their hands. It's a little statue, the Palladium. And it was said that after the Greeks took possession of this, Troy fell. It was also understood to be associated. So it is known to go through Athens and Sparta. It was also known to go into Rome and Italy. And wherever it went, whoever had possession of it couldn't be defeated. And it was also said that it was transferred from Rome by Constantinople by Constantine the Great to Constantinople, which was potentially energetically responsible for the transfer of power of Rome to Constantine. Okay, so why is all this interesting? It's interesting because this is coming exactly on the heels of, if you listen to last new moon, the Ark of the Covenant, similar object, this secret thing that gave people magical powers. And if you remember, we discovered last time, the portal is showing us that we already are sovereign, that we have everything we need. And I believe that this Palladium object is reminding us of the same thing. If this lunation is really lighting us up about our energy, about our energetic charge, and we know that the 3D world is simply a reflection of all the internal work and all the higher dimensional work that we're remembering how to do, that we also know that, kind of like Dumbo's feather, that when we understand that we have the power to remain sovereign, anything is possible. I think it's highly interesting because this particular eclipse cycle is going to be the close of the last eclipse cycle. And if you remember, last eclipse cycle, goddess Medusa came through, the woman who had the gargoyle, the snaky hair, and was known to, the first myth that I unpacked was how she was crazy and to be feared. The second myth was how she was a beautiful virgin whose hair got turned into snakes by Athena to protect her. And then in homage, Medusa gave her head to Athena, and Athena put that head on her shield to keep her sovereign in battle. So Athena made another magical object besides Medusa's head, which was last eclipse season. Now we have the Palladium, which is another protection, sovereignty, energetically, what do you want to create? So all this is kind of coming through and converging. And I think it's pointing us to some, I've mentioned in the podcast, super transformational, transmutational, powerful times. This is just the beginning. I hope that you can listen to the podcast. I hope that you enjoy it and have a wonderful, fabulous full moon.